Howdy everyone, Stefan here from the French Cooking Academy. This is Tuesday and as you may know already, I'm posting 2 videos a week, one on Tuesday and one on Friday. So little announcement here because I'm always trying to shape up my videos and find a better way of making my content. What I want to do moving forward whenever possible is to split the recipes in 2 sections, right? Tuesday, we're going to be concentrating on all the technical aspect of a recipe and try to practice that. And on the Friday, we'll be using these techniques to actually make that recipe. And that's starting off today. So the recipe of Friday is a duck recipe. And in that recipe, we need to learn how to make a duck stock. It's not something that's made very often, a duck stock. So today, the perfect day on Tuesday, we have plenty of time. We're going to be solely looking at the duck stock making and how it is made. We can take our time, we can talk about it, and on Friday we're going to be cruising in and making our duck recipe. Are you all ready? Let's cook! And now let's have a look how to make a duck stock, which is not a common stock you will see very often. So the technique is the same as the chicken stock, and we're gonna make a brown duck stock today, and like we've seen before with the brown chicken stock, and this is the home version. And as you can see here, I'm gonna be using again some off-the-shelf duck stock that I just happened to find. You know, if you really don't have it, you can just use water. I'm gonna mix both today for the purist that wants to see both the water and the off-the-shelf thing. So we're going to do a half-half scenario so to please everyone. For the ingredients, of course, duck bones, very important. You cannot substitute this for anything else. You need duck bones for that recipe, otherwise you won't be making a duck stock. We've got a bit of white wine. And for the flavoring, some strong flavors today. Juniper berries, black peppercorn, rosemary, bay leaves, sage, thyme, parsley stalks. It's a lot of flavors going on in here. And this is a simple mirepoix of carrots and onion. Now, while I'm here, let me explain very briefly what the mirepoix means in France or in French cooking, because I've heard this a million times. So let's clarify this once and for all. The mirepoix is 2 things. The first one is the mirepoix cut. This is what you learn in school on how to cut, for instance, a carrot, and you have to cut it in cubes or dices of 1 centimeter square in size, so it's a 1/4 inch. So little cubes of 1/4 inch in size. This is the first technical, it's a cut. The second thing it is this. It's a nickname for a mix of carrots and onion that are roughly chopped that you're going to be using in a stock. This is just a nickname used in a kitchen when a chef tells you, oh, can you cut me a mirepoix please, I need some for a stock. You're going to be going and start to chop some onions and carrots exactly the same way as this. It doesn't have to be exactly square, you can roughly chop it and have roughly the same amount of size. This is just going to go in a stock, no one will see it. And that's the little technical note on the side. Now let's start cooking. And now let's start. In order to make our duck stock, you're going to need a stock pot or any pan you want with 1/2 tablespoon of oil. I'm using peanut oil, you can use grapeseed oil or sunflower oil if you want. You start with the bones on their own. No salt, no pepper. So quick reminder for that first step, you need to use a very high heat because the usual traditional method, put the bones on a roasting tray in the oven at very high temperature. To reproduce this, we need to brown the bones very well in oil for a good 10 minutes, and that's going to happen on a sizzling hot pan. So make sure you leave them like that, very high heat, and we're going to color them. Now it's been a good 5 minutes, and let's have a check. Do these bones, or are they actually browning? Look at this. This is one piece. Let me turn it around. Is it browning? Well, just. You see how tough these things are? And because you're using a home stove, remember that your pan has to be so hot that it's not funny. You need the fires from hell under your pan to make these things to brown, because we are not using a professional kitchen. So don't be shy to really put the heat on very high, because it really takes time to brown these things. And let's keep on browning them, but just avoid the burning like this. Try to keep this to a minimum. And when you reach the 10-minute marks, you can lower your heat finally. You've browned as much as you could for 10 minutes, so that's what I've got here. And it's now time to add all of the onions and carrots. You're just gonna mix them well. And we're gonna leave this to cook for a good 5 to maximum 10 minutes on a rather low heat. So we're just gonna take it easy now. Now when the 5 to 10 minutes have passed, you can arm yourself with a wooden spoon, and you can see my carrot and onions, they started to sweat, as we say. And now you can put your heat a little bit higher, and we're gonna add half a glass of wine. This is a sauvignon blanc. And that's going to be our first deglazing process, and we're doing just a one pot method. Usually you have to take the bones out to do that, but we're at home, we're going to keep things gentle. So now we're going to wait for the wine to reduce to just a few tablespoons left before we add the rest of the liquid. Well done. So now, as you can see here, I don't have much liquid at all. I've actually reduced it really well, so no more acidity. And I'm now able to add my additional liquid, which is going to be 1 cup of off-the-shelf duck stock and 1 cup of water. There you go. Once the liquid is in, I'm going to mingle everything, make sure I mix everything, and I'm going to wait until that comes to the boil. But before that, we're going to add the extra flavoring. And now let's add some flavoring. So we're going to start with peppercorn and juniper berries, about a handful. Some parsley stalks in here. And of course all of these little lovely things in there. So I've got some thyme, look at that, the sage. I'm just going to take the leaves. Everything in. It has to be nice and coarse. Oh, a nice picture. And then from here you're going to basically make sure everything is in. So you just mix well. Once this is done, we're going to wait for the boil to return before we cover the lid or cover that pan and leave it to simmer for 40 minutes to an hour. Now the boil is back and we're ready to cover the pan. So we're going to put this on a very gentle simmer, and we're going to cover, but just with 2 fingers left, so that it can still evaporate on a very, very low heat. My stock has been cooking for 40 minutes and now it's ready, and I can turn my heat off. As you can see here, I've got what I wanted, which is basically a brown duck stock. So I'm going to do a bit of a taste. And one word of warning, you never add salt, by the way, in a stock, unless you want to use it immediately and salt is necessary. I can really feel the berries in there. That's interesting. Also the rosemary. Different than chicken stock. You can feel that little age with the duck. It's a really interesting stock. Now, quickly, why did I actually say 40 minutes to an hour for that stock? And the simple reason is that if you look at my stock here, it's still rather liquid. And I want to keep that liquid form because I'm going to be reusing the stock later on. So I'm going to cool it down, put it in the fridge, and then take it out again later on, and then rewarm it. And all these steps, if you want, is going to reduce the stock in a natural way. So I need to be mindful of that and not reduce it too much already. If you want to reduce it to an hour, that is when you're going to be using the stock immediately, and you're going to try to reduce that and that liquid a bit more thicker to concentrate the taste, because you're going to be using it straight off into a sauce or something else. And this is also when you can add some salt. And when you're done with your stock and it's ready, the last step consists of removing the bones like that, reserve them on the tray, and then you filter your stock through a sieve into another container and allow it to cool down. And finally, I'm going to talk about how to preserve that stock and how to reuse it later. Alright, my stock has cooled down, I've bottled it, and look how nice and brown that thing looks. Beautiful, my homemade duck stock from home, ready in 40 minutes. It's pretty good. Now, how long can I keep this? If I was to keep this in the fridge, it's going to be 24 hours to 48 hours maximum. And if not, if you're not going to use it straight away, the best thing is to freeze it. So you can use like little sandwich bags like that and pour it all in and put it in the freezer. Or some other people use this, which is this ice cube kind of containers. You pour the stock in and you can use cubes at a time as needed when you need it. It's a really handy option. But hey guys, that's it. That completes our Tuesday video. And we're going to be using that stock, remember, on Friday for our recipe, which is going to be some delicious duck breast cooked in a green peppercorn sauce with our homemade duck stock. So don't miss that recipe on Friday. It's gonna be really good. Now, as always, if you want to comment, drop me a comment, subscribe to the channel, and the new thing is a Patreon page. Don't forget to become a patron if you can. We are reaching almost 100 patrons, so we're doing really well. Keep on going, and I see you all on Friday. Have a good time. Bye-bye.